And the community editor and columnist at The National, Ryan Sabey, the deputy political editor at The Sun. It's been great having your company this Saturday. Thank you so much. We're going to start with The Telegraph and this warm embrace, or almost embrace, with Giorgia Meloni and JD Vance, because peace in Ukraine is top of the agenda for the US, for Europe, for everyone, essentially, Shona.
Well, hopefully, although the headline here is that Donald Trump is threatening to walk away from peace talks very shortly if a ceasefire deal is not reached soon. And in typical sort of casual style, he says he will take a pass if the parties make it difficult to reach an agreement, as if someone's offered him an extra glass of wine rather than talking about ending a horrendous war. And in Italy, JD Vance is saying, we do feel optimistic that we can hopefully bring this war, this very brutal war, to a close. But of course, you know, you get to the end of the article and it's emphasising that the US plan would include accepting Russia's gains in Ukraine, which European officials are saying absolutely not. And then you've also got the US saying it's prepared to lift sanctions on Moscow. This is all briefings that we're hearing, and also about Ukraine's ambition to join NATO being taken off the table. So you can see why Ukraine is not desperately trying to grasp that deal. So again, Trump's approach is to make these kind of threats and talks, but we'll need to see what happens next. I mean, walking away is certainly not going to solve anything.
I mean, he is a negotiator, isn't he, Ryan? He came from a TV background where he puts on a show, and I suppose it's second-guessing whether walking away is just him negotiating.
Yeah, you've got this three-dimensional chess going on. You've got America, you've got Russia, and you've got the European dimension as well. It seems quite a long time ago that we were talking about the coalition of the willing. So you just wonder whether he's trying to walk away to an extent to try and let Europe and the United Kingdom and France try and fill that security gap as more. And, you know, the US just provide this backstop in an absolute emergency. So I think there's a sort of power play going on, and you just feel like Trump will probably try and get a deal over the line, but try and get it sealed once he's got the European guarantees in place that they will actually stand up and you know, if anything happens in Ukraine. But then it's the big question of what do we actually provide for Ukraine? Is it troops in the actual country? Is it surrounding the country? Is it warships in the Black Sea? Is it troops on the ground, as I say? So it's going to be a difficult few weeks for world leaders just to try and come together and try and find some sort of agreement, if it can happen in that short time frame.
I was about to add that, actually. We're going to go closer to home now, and this is in the Times, and on the road with a reformed Farage is the headline. But the local elections will be a real test for reform.
That's right. What we see is Nigel Farage going around the country talking up, you know, his greatest hits of, you know, net zero or income tax cuts or big issues like immigration. And polling done this week in our paper, a Survation poll, did show that 2/3 of people in the country in those sort of red wall type seats says that Britain is broken, Britain is heading in the wrong direction. Nigel Farage has got a great opportunity now to get council seats, to perhaps win councils. But I think the key thing to look at, you know, in 2 or 3 years' time, if they do get hold of those councils, is what they actually do with their power. Because we've got Nigel Farage as this big figure, the insurgent figure, but let's see what happens when they actually get the hands on power, the reins of power, and see if they can actually make a difference to people's lives. Because if they can, who knows what will happen in the general election. But he's got big questions to answer on policy issues. He talks about raising the thresholds on income tax, getting rid of the means testing on winter fuel allowance. All this costs money, and they don't seem to have any sort of big answers to that. So let's just see what happens in the local elections, but a massive opportunity for them.
Yeah, no, it really is. Just going to pause there for a moment. We want to show you, these are live pictures of Rome, and we understand we're just talking about JD Vance, weren't we? This is his arrival in the capital there. So as we get a glimpse of the Vice President, he's in the Vatican, heading to the Vatican. We'll bring those pictures live to you, but it's looking spectacular. in Rome, their local time is just coming up to 9:52. So, yeah, we'll keep an eye on that as we continue our news review. But as ever, chaotic in Rome there, with cars beeping and security gathering ahead of that arrival of J.D. Vance. We understand he's not actually going to meet the Pope, and that's not on any official lines there. But he is meeting two of the top officials from the Vatican, so not meeting the Pope, we understand, directly. So later in the day, he'll be going to the Colosseum. So a really interesting trip planned for the Vice President. We'll leave those pictures for you there now. We were talking, weren't we, about the local elections, Nigel Farage reform. What are they polling on at the moment? Strongly for a while, 24, 25%?
Yeah, this is the interesting thing as well about the sort of four main parties now. So you've got, well, particularly Conservatives, Labour and Reform, all hovering around sort of that 22, 23, 24%. So that's why it's so difficult to gauge how it'll all play out in the local elections. But as I say, Nigel Farage has been at the sort of centre of attacks from Keir Starmer, particularly at Prime Minister's questions. So you can see the focus has moved on from sort of Nigel Farage being out of Parliament. Now it's right at the centre of it.
Yeah, he is.
And Keir Starmer has got him in his sights.
Yeah, this is true. And what the future holds is whether, you know, they do take those seats and whether that is a gift to the Conservative Party, because they'll be able to turn around and say, hang on, this is what Reform have done.
Exactly.
And that will be a big conversation too. I want to get a check on time, actually. Do we have enough time to squeeze in another story? Shona, take me through the story that we've got Prince William and Donald Trump there. We've been speaking, haven't we? This is in the Express, about that soft diplomacy of the royals being used to woo the US president and that hint of potentially a September state visit.
Yes, and I mean, the language of this is quite extraordinary. You've got the wooing in the headline, you've got the seduction in the opening sentence, and then it goes on to talk about the royal carrot being dangled, which the mind boggles. But Donald Trump thinks Prince William is a good-looking guy, really, really handsome, looks better in person, bit of a backhanded compliment there. So apparently that's all it needs to impress him in the run-up to a meeting. But apparently Prince William is to help secure a post-Brexit trade deal, which is quite a tall ask, so good luck to him with that.
He does have huge respect for the royal family, and it's something that he buys into, the pomp and ceremony. It's something that he really loves.
Yeah, he likes his own ego being flattered because he perceives these people to be respected globally, if not perhaps necessarily domestically, and so he feels that he's being treated as being very important by getting to meet with what he seems to regard himself as a young, stronger leader. Again, bit of a backhanded compliment to there in terms of the king. But this is obviously just pandering to the sense of himself that he has, and yeah, all this language. It doesn't make me envy.
He responds to prestige and status, and there's video of him looking through a picture book of him meeting the Queen. He just loves looking back and seeing that he will be a centre point of history of, you know, meeting the royals and just loving the glamour and the shine that can sort of shine off on him, actually.
Well, you visibly saw when Sir Keir Starmer handed over that personally written letter by the King, he was visibly moved by it, Shona.
Well, I don't know that he experiences emotions in the same way that we do. The flattering of the ego is definitely a strategy. I think everyone in Scotland's quite glad that apparently Donald Trump has decided we're not good enough for him. I think the feeling is mutual. So he can go to Windsor, he can stand beside someone that he thinks looks handsome, and perhaps he considers his equal in that regard. And good luck to William.
We will end this news review. Great having your company, Shona and Ryan. We're going to break now for a short break. Join us after the break. We'll have all your top stories. Thank you.
A show of military might and menace.